Alright, so it's Monday afternoon. It's about 1 week since the Christmas Eve workout. So this morning I actually started out with 10 400s in the pool. This afternoon on the bike, it's just a maximal aerobic fitness test where what you do is you try and see what your average power can be for 30 minutes with a heart rate between 150 to 155. So this week we're back into some good training, but it's all going to be about capturing plenty of data for the swim, bike and run. It's definitely a lot hotter in here than I'd really like. I mean, it's currently 27 degrees Celsius, which is about 80.6 degrees Fahrenheit with 67% humidity. So a bit warmer than I'd really like for fitness testing, but that's Australian summer, so what are you going to do? Thankfully I do have this really high powered Kmart fan here to keep me nice and cool. Alright, here we go. So the plan now is to do a 30 minutes at a time trial, but the real key is to keep my heart rate between 150, 155 beats per minute. And then whatever sort of average power I can hold there, that's going to be roughly my, let's say, aerobic power. At least that's the plan with this test. And then tomorrow I'll be able to verify it with some lactate testing. I'm going to do this, I'm pretty strictly in the TT position just because, we are training for a real Ironman now, so I should be doing it as if I'm going to do a real Ironman in the TT position. Anyway, here we go, 30 minutes of a fairly moderate time trial.
When the sun goes down and the moon comes up,
Alright, let's hit 30 minutes. That's it, 30 minutes. Done, 207 watts average. Which is funny because that's the exact power I hold for the indoor Ironman actually. So it's not bad actually to be able to hold 207 I suppose, considering it's that hot. So yeah, now it'll just be 3 by 8 minutes at that 207 watts, just to spend a bit of time around that aerobic zone. So it's Tuesday lunch and I'm just going to do a full lactate profile test today. So I do have to give a big shout out to HMG Direct who actually sent me a lactate analyzer so I can do some testing with it. They did also send me a discount code, so you can use the code lactate5. It gets 5% off any lactate analyzers you buy from them. And I'll make sure I link to everything in the description for that. But yeah, huge shout out to HMG Direct for sending me one of these. Hopefully it's something I can implement into my training quite a bit now. And yeah, thanks for their support because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it. So what I've got set up here, I'm just gonna have a little chart with the power increments, lactate values, heart rate, and then just an overall feeling. Now, the current temperature, it's probably a bit warmer than I would like. It's 25.9 degrees Celsius, which is, 78 degrees Fahrenheit. But, I mean, as long as I take that into account when I am doing the lactate profile, I can at least, the values still count. It's just that I do have to, take it with a grain of salt, knowing that it is so hot. But in the future, when it comes around to that winter time again, I can test when it's a bit cooler and see the difference. But as long as I record the temperature every time I use it in training, I think the data is still valid. So I've got the Lactate Plus analyzer, and they sent me this one just because it is actually designed for self-testing and athletes who are going to test themselves. Small, portable, easy to use, and you're just meant to prick your finger with it rather than your earlobe. So it makes it a lot easier, I suppose, for self-testing, but that being said, I'm still going to get Lauren to help me out with this one. But yeah, hopefully from this session I can capture heaps of really good data that's going to be able to help. I mean, it's mainly just to track fitness improvements throughout my training, but it is something that's still going to be a pretty good tool and something I can learn a lot more about. Alright, so the workout's going to be a 15-minute warm-up at about 140 watts, and then I'm going to do 6-minute increments and do a test after each 6 minutes, going up by roughly 10% of my FTP. So FTP is 280 watts. I'm just going to go up by between 20 and 30 watts just to keep some round numbers. Thing is, by the time I hit 300, my lactate should be up pretty high, and I just won't continue testing after it hits 6 millimole. So yeah, time to start the workout. Gonna do the whole workout with erg mode on, just to make sure that the power is really consistent throughout. Alright, so we're just at the end of the first sort of warm up. Average heart rate for this one was about 120, 17 seconds left, so just gonna wash the hands, use some water, give it a wipe. So that's perfect. So Perfect. So that's interesting because that's Ironman power. So that's the exact power I held in the indoor Ironman like 3 weeks ago. So it's good to see that that is 2.1, which is about exactly what you would expect Ironman intensity to be. So carry on. Can I put my heart rate down to 152? 1.8, so it's still hovering around 2, which is fine. Just means it hasn't started to increase yet. 235, 3.3. Perfect. So pretty linear increase. So 250 watts, 4.3. That was 165 beats per minute heart rate, so that's pretty close to, yeah. I described that as threshold, which, previously my FTP said 280 was my threshold, but to be fair, it is 27.5 degrees Celsius in here right now with 70% humidity, which is 81 Fahrenheit, so that's fair. 6.5, perfect. So above threshold, which is good, is pretty much a good linear increase all the way up, and that gives me a pretty good curve now. So you can pretty much see that I'll have to go through the results later. It looks like LT1 is between 220, 230-ish, and then LT2's around that 250 mark. Alright, so the test finished. We've got a pretty good ramp now in terms of, my lactate values as they increase. One thing we definitely did learn is that, lactate testing is a pretty, I suppose, delicate thing to do, and it took quite a few retests, which is to be expected, I suppose, when it was our first go actually doing the tests, and a few readings were pretty inaccurate, so we had to do some retests. But overall, I'll put the info up on the screen in terms of my actual values, so you can have a look at those. But I think that's pretty good. I'll have to have a chat with my coach and some people like that to try and get an idea of what these numbers actually mean, and then how I can use them in training. But more than anything, I think it's just going to be really good to actually track fitness improvements over time. And obviously, a huge shout out to HMG Direct for sending me the lactate analyzer, and a big thanks, they've given us that discount code, so lactate5, you can get 5% off all your orders. I'll make sure I link to that down in the description there so you can check them out. They sell heaps of stuff, not just lactate analyzers, heaps of cool fitness equipment and testing tools. So definitely worth checking them out if there are any tri clubs or anyone out there that does want to get involved in some more scientific approaches to training. Testing week continues, and it's a 3K time trial this morning in the pool. Problem is my watch is never really accurate over about 1K, so that means I'm going to have to try and keep count for the 3 kilometers. What was that? Seems like I have to film everything you do. Alright, somehow the watch remained accurate. We got it done in 51:18. So Thursday lunch, it's just an hour aerobic ride, probably holding around 170 to 180 watts, I guess. But this morning we just had a 2K recovery swim. They're all nice and easy for 2 kilometers. So it's Thursday afternoon, and the session today is a 5K time trial. Got a new Stride power meter for running, so the purpose of today's session is to find out what kind of power I can hold for 5K. Alright, 5K's done, 18:54. Pretty painful, but we're only really after the average power today, so I'll get home and check that out. Friday morning is the VO2 max workout. So it kind of pyramids up with 1 round of 1 minute, 2 rounds of 2 minutes, 3 rounds of 3 minutes, 4 rounds of 4 minutes, and you just have equal rest to work. Probably a bit sore from yesterday's 5K time trial. And I usually don't like doing hard bike workouts in the morning, but I just got too much work to fit in today. All the test sessions are done now, which basically means we're back to, good solid training. There's no more test sessions, it's just back to that consistent training now. you know, I should probably say that I'm obviously taking a much more, like, let's say, scientific approach to training now with like lactate testing and the power meter for running. But one thing I do want to stress is that the most important thing I think when it comes to my training is still going to be perceived effort. You know, I've got these extra scientific tools now, but I don't think any of that will supersede perceived effort. I think that's the thing that will inform training decisions more than anything else. I mean, especially because, like, I wouldn't claim to be an expert in any of the data, so they're good metrics I can use to track fitness, but I don't think anything's going to beat perceived effort for me, at least. Alright, go. Friday morning workout's done. I feel like I really need to work on VO2 max stuff. I really struggle to hold anything over 300 at the moment. Which kind of makes sense because, like, a long iron prep, I figure I get really efficient at like that aerobic power, but as soon as it goes off threshold, I just haven't spent much time there. Anyway, that's it for Friday morning, off to the pool survey. Saturday morning, and I really did want to do my long ride outside this weekend. I mean, I've just come off, like, you know, an indoor Ironman training block, so I've done a lot of indoor riding lately, and I really wanted to get back outdoors before Ironman Australia, where, you know, it's going to be a pretty hilly course and we need quite a lot of bike handling skills. But unfortunately the weather is pretty miserable today, so kind of means that I'm going to have to do this ride indoors again. So it's planned as 5 hours. Fortunately, I do know I can manage 5 hours on Zwift, but it's not going to be the most fun. Alright, here we go. 5 hours starts now. So whilst it still is an indoor ride, I am still trying to work on pushing like threshold up the hills, and then as soon as I get to the crest of the hill, back down to TT position and pushing pretty hard to attack down the hill. Because Port Macquarie is a pretty hilly course now, I need the skills to be able to attack the downhills after pushing pretty hard uphill, and I can still do that on Zwift. Coming up on 4 hours in, and I've turned on the humidity control for the room. You know what is funny with my training at the moment is that doing VO2 max efforts 3 or 4 minutes is pretty hard, but 5 hours moderate on the trainer just feels easy. Alright, that's 5 hours done. Just a 30-minute easy run now to finish it off.
I'm the night-head hunter looking for some